people in your broader circle of life, maybe even people you haven't talked to in a while, people who say, I hate politics, and say to them, you know what, I can understand why you feel that way. But guess what? This is not about politics. This is about policy. This is about whether or not we continue to expand and protect and preserve an agenda and progress with an agenda that is about lower taxes and rebuilding our military and making sure that we have judges who look at the Constitution not as a piece of paper towel, but as the law of the land. That we make sure that our regulations on our small businesses are limited, that they're not intrusive, invasive, expensive, expansive. That we make sure we continue to give small businesses the relief they need. That we make sure we continue to fight this virus. And I'm flanked by Senator Loeffler and, of course, Senator Perdue, who can't be here. They have voted with President Trump again and again and again when it's come time to help Georgia and Georgians. And when people say, oh, my vote doesn't really matter, it doesn't count, we've learned again and again, including in 2020, that your vote absolutely counts. And Georgia, it's also important to recognize that your vote is your equalizing power. All of us get one vote, no matter who we are, where we come from, no matter our race, our gender, our socioeconomic status, our geographic or our quote politics or lack thereof. Our vote is our voice. And you want to lift up your voice and make sure that we are voting to have a check and balance in Washington. It's very dangerous to have Washington be controlled by a single party, especially when that party does things like mock the opening prayer of the new Congress last night, try to foist a radical agenda on the rest of us. And things don't get better when people get power and get to Washington. If they tell you that they're radical, if they admit that they want to defund the police, if they refer to law enforcement and police as thugs and gangsters, take them at their word. That's what they believe. And they will let the money follow that as well. And Senator Loeffler's opponent has said things like that and much worse. I think that the voters are tired of being insulted by their politicians, tired of being felt like they are less than, forgotten men, forgotten women, that they don't matter, that they have their nose pressed up against the glass looking in, wondering what's in there for me. And that's why President Trump, with Senator Loeffler's support and Senator Perdue's support, certainly Secretary and Governor Perdue's support, has been able to create so many jobs, deregulate, make energy a brand new industry in our country in a way we've never had before. And we need to protect that. We are now a net exporter of natural gas and oil in this country for the first time ever. That's important. And there's a reason that the other side doesn't talk about those issues. There's a reason they hide behind the Green New Deal. Yeah, I want to support it. It went to the vote in the Senate, and guess how many votes it got? 0. Not a single vote. Because they understand that it would bankrupt this country, and it would ban things like gas and cows and other stuff that are important to us. So we can't allow Washington to be run by one party that is unrecognizable to someone like me who grew up in the Democratic Party in my household, of all women, in Little South Jersey, in a farming community. I don't recognize it. And Georgia, why in the world, ask yourself this question as you're voting for Senator Loeffler and Senator Perdue tomorrow for re-election. Why in the world should you do what the National Democratic Party refused to do? When they chose their nominee for president, they didn't go for the more radical people. They certainly were running. They made it through all the debates. They were standing. They were some of the last ones standing. The Democratic Party itself rejected the most radical candidates in the presidential race this year, and went with a swampy, guy who's been there for 47 years, who was going against the radicals. So why in the world, Georgia, would you want to do what even the Democratic Party nationwide refused to do? It even scared them to think about overregulation and just decimating industries like energy. With the manufacturing bases back, our military is rebuilt, our law enforcement is more deeply respected and more generously resourced, as are our veterans who literally were dying for care just several years ago, waiting for care. And that doesn't happen without bold, decisive, and resolute and engaged senators like Senator Kelly Loeffler and like Senator David Perdue. The entire America First agenda, the entire success of this country over the last 4 years has been enabled and advanced by senators like Senator Loeffler and like Senator Perdue, who have stood in the breach and boldly voted for these policies. I've never seen a bigger contrast in my life, and I've had a long one, in two different sets of Senate candidates on the ballot at one time. There is a difference. There's a huge contrast between them. If you like freedom, you like free markets, the choice is very clear. And let me also say this. I was really struck by the two conventions, the two-party national conventions this summer for lots of reasons. But not least of which wasn't it really fascinating that even according to the Washington Post analysis, abortion, pro-choice, women's right to choose wasn't mentioned in the Democratic convention this year. I mean, we've been going to conventions for decades. That's all you ever heard. 0 times according to the Washington Post. Pro-life, that was mentioned 31 times at the Republican convention. You can look it up in the Washington Post analysis. And that's because that even the Democrats understand they're losing on that issue. So if you don't think abortion should extend into the 10th month of pregnancy, if you actually believe in protecting the sanctity of life, if you don't want people violating the Second Amendment who run around all day pretending that they're for the First Amendment, the choice is clear there too. And I'm not afraid to say it. I think it's really remarkable that you didn't hear Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Michelle Obama and Barack Obama and Jill Biden and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the rest of them talk about what has been their signature issue, abortion. Isn't that fascinating? So Georgia, don't be fooled. The reason that it's conspicuous by its absence in this debate is they don't want you to know that they have voted against bans on partial birth abortion. They vote against protecting babies after 20 weeks of gestation when nonpartisan scientists and doctors say the baby can feel pain. So don't be fooled. There's a reason they're not even talking about that. This is not about politics. It's about policy. It's about freedom. It's about your voice. You elect those two Democrats, their lives will be much easier. Your lives, Georgia, will be much harder. And you don't deserve that. You deserve the freedom and the choice. So lift up your voices, get out and vote. Call people who hate politics, call people who you haven't talked about politics in a long time. Get them to the polls tomorrow. Volunteer to drive people and provide information. Many times people don't vote because it's confusing. There should be no confusion. Everybody should be voting who want to vote. It is your constitutional right, it is your franchise, and it is your civic duty to participate. Your leaders are your representatives in Washington. And Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue are representing the interests of Georgia in Washington and need to continue to do that. Thank you very much, and God bless Georgia. I'd like to introduce a legend in Georgia, your former governor, the current Secretary of Agriculture in the Trump administration, who I've had a real pleasure to work very closely with in the administration. We were there together for many years. I actually want to give 2 quick shout-outs to Secretary Perdue and his administration. I know that Senator Loeffler and Senator Perdue supported these policies wholeheartedly. First of all, what USDA has done under Secretary and Governor Perdue with respect to the opioid crisis has been remarkable, going into rural America and helping in a way that people just never had. They set up and stood up many different pieces of infrastructure that allow people to get the relief they need. And secondly, it never got enough coverage, and I know the senators supported this wholeheartedly. But Secretary Perdue and his team, in the matter of days, if not weeks, I mean, really just very quickly, they were able to provide over 100 million meals to school children when the pandemic hit and schools started to close. And we don't hear much about that. I don't talk about biased coverage a lot, but I do talk about incomplete coverage, and that would be on my list. Over 100 million school children across this country got their meals provided because the USDA stood up and said, they're not going to be in school. That's where they get a hot lunch and some of them a hot breakfast. And I personally want to thank him and thank Senator Loeffler and thank Senator Perdue and others who put no politics in that whatsoever and didn't hesitate to make sure that that got done. It's incredibly important because it shows, just as when you're supporting veterans and the military and law enforcement and the middle class and small business owners and our school children, that you don't hesitate. It's why you're there. It's why you love public service. It's why we compete in public service. So thank you very much, Secretary Perdue, for doing that, and here as our former governor as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly Ann. If I were out there in the audience, I'd give you a standing ovation for that eloquent remarks because you speak Georgian. And these folks understand what you can say. In fact, I would hope that the media would play all of your remarks this morning, because you've just aptly and correctly described what these two races are all about. It's about policy, and there's never been a bigger contrast. In fact, in Georgia, Kellyanne, we'd say you shell the corn all the way down to the cob in that way, by telling people what this election's all about and what the contrast between these two candidates and the things they stand for versus the other two candidates. You were talking about the convention and how some of these most liberal, progressive, extraordinary, dangerous ideas were not mentioned there. In fact, these two candidates here in Georgia represent the left of the left in that way. Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, they're not in even the middle of the Democratic Party. They're on the far left. If you listen in his own words to Raphael Warnock, that is not where Georgia stands. And we don't believe Georgians will vote for that, because that's not the values they believe in. Kellyanne told you correctly, it is about policy over personalities and politics. And that's the difference. Georgians get that. Kellyanne, when I was governor, we used to talk about good policy trumps politics. And that's what's happening here today with these two races. I think people are frankly tired of all the ads back and forth, but they understand the underlying values that Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue stand for. Now, you understand that my cousin David is quarantined at this moment. We were planning to have two separate fly-arounds today, but since he's quarantining, I'm joining Kelly Loeffler's team today, and we're going to be going all around the state to let people know how important this vote is. And Kelly, this is our constitutional right. And interestingly enough, the other crowd through this ballot harvesting is trying to remove the sanctity of the privacy of the ballot as well. Someone standing over my shoulder watching me fill out my ballot. That's not America. I don't even have to tell my spouse how I voted, nor does she have to tell me how we vote. The secrecy of the ballot is premier, and we're frankly still concerned about some of the irregularities there. And we need some politics and some policies that will continue to have an opportunity in America. Georgians love the freedom and the liberty and the economic opportunities they've had here in this state and for America. Folks, the eyes of Georgia, the eyes of the United States, literally the eyes of the world are on this race today. And that's why I'm going with Senator Kelly Loeffler, and as well in absentia, my cousin David Perdue, to let the people of Georgia know their vote counts, their vote is needed, and they need to get out today, if they haven't voted already, to get out tomorrow and go to the polls and let their voice be heard. I appreciate the opportunity. Kelly let me go around with her today. We were talking in the room before we came out. You wouldn't believe the similarities in which we grew up. I grew up pulling pigweeds in South Georgia. She grew up pulling milkweeds in Illinois and feeding the cows there. So what I love about Kelly Loeffler is she's got the grit, the farm grit to get it done. It's just a whatever it takes kind of attitude, and that's what I've seen out of Kelly. I like what I tell people about David Perdue is that he's the same guy you sent up there, Georgia sent up there 6 years ago. He had a very comfortable life in retirement, having had a very successful corporate career, and he had a calling to serve this country. It's that same calling that he took up there. Both he and Kelly have supported the President Trump agenda, and in many aspects in that way, and I think America's better for it. We need them there again to sustain that legacy for America, and when we can win Georgia with these races and save the future of America. So, Kelly, I'm happy to be here with you today. I've admired your style, I've admired your grit, and your willingness to succumb to many of the accusations and allegations that are very unfair in these kind of races. So, God bless you, God bless America, and God bless Georgia as you vote tomorrow. Kelly Loeffler.
Thank you so much, Secretary Perdue. Thank you for all you do for our farmers across this nation, for our families. Thank you for what you've done for Georgia. And Kellyanne, I admire you so much. Thank you for your patriotism. You're a great conservative leader for our country, strong conservative woman. So thank you so much. And thank you all for being here today. Look, our campaign has tremendous momentum because Georgia knows that they sent someone to Washington to work for them. I don't owe anyone in Washington anything. And Chuck Schumer made very clear the stakes of this race. He said, now we take Georgia, then we change America. And he's been clear about that change he wants to bring right here in Georgia. It's raising taxes on hardworking families in Georgia. It's crushing regulation. It's big government. It's open borders. It's defunded police, lockdowns. That's what they want to bring to Georgia. We've gotten the message out to Georgians that they have a fighter for them in Washington. I've committed I will always be an outsized voice for Georgians in Washington. Look, I'm a business person. I'm not a politician. In fact, I moved to Georgia about 2 decades ago as a job seeker. I became a job creator right here in Georgia. I was blessed to live the American dream. That's what I'm fighting for every single Georgian. And that's what's on the ballot tomorrow, January 5th, Tuesday. This is why Georgians have to get out to vote. The American dream is on the ballot. That's what David Perdue and I are fighting for. The Democrats want to bring socialism to our country. They've been very clear. They want high taxes put on Georgians to fund big government, socialized health care, open borders. We have to hold the line here in Georgia. We are literally the firewall to stopping socialism. And my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, is Chuck Schumer's rubber stamp to advance that radical agenda. But you don't have to take my words for it. You've seen him in his own words, calling our police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, a threat to our children. He has attacked our military, saying you can't serve God and you can't serve in the military. I have been proud to stand with our veterans. 2 of my 5 pieces of legislation that I had passed in my first year in the Senate was to help prevent homelessness among veterans, fighting for our veterans. And I continue to fight for our veterans and for all families across Georgia to make sure that they're safe and secure, to stand with law enforcement. My opponent would stand to defund the police and to defund our military. But there's more. It's not just what he has said, it's the things he hasn't said. When I asked him to denounce socialism and Marxism, he refused to do it. That's because he believes in it. When he was asked if he would pack the Supreme Court with liberal justices, he said he had not thought about it. That's because he would pack the court and fundamentally change America and erase our Constitution. He's refused to answer questions about being linked to child abuse and domestic abuse investigations. Georgians deserve answers. They need a politician, a person in Washington who is working for them, not playing politics. Because we heard what Nancy Pelosi said when it came to pandemic relief. They were playing politics with pandemic relief. She withheld relief month after month while hardworking Georgians waited on that relief all summer. She waited until after the election and she admitted it. I've been fighting for families since day one. I helped bring $47 billion right here to Georgia. David Perdue and I did that. We brought $15 billion to small business that saved 1.5 million jobs. And we also fought to pass $900 billion of relief in December to make sure that families had checks, that unemployment was preserved, that eviction moratoriums were held up, that we had money to speed the vaccine right here to Georgia. But that's what Democrats said no to time and again. Money for schools, money for hospitals. They said no. They played politics. We have to hold them accountable. And I fought to get families the $2,000 checks. And I've continued to fight for that, and so has David. Look, everything's on the line in this election. Our way of life in Georgia. That's why I'm so proud to show Georgians the work that I've produced for them in just 1 year, in my first year in the Senate, on top of running a campaign that is defending our freedoms, our way of life in this country, fighting for the American dream that I was blessed to live. That's why I donate my Senate pay every single month to charities across Georgia to help those who are helping others live those dreams, to come back from adversity. That's what is the best of America. That's what I'm fighting to preserve. My opponents will never fight for that. They will always fight for Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi's radical agenda that has to be rejected right here in Georgia. So I just want to say thank you for coming out today, and we'll be glad to take your questions.
All right, let's go ahead and go with Patricia and then Robert.
Senator, good morning. We have the president on tape telling Brad Raffensperger to find him 11,000 votes to overturn the last election. And if he doesn't do that, the president said a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative on Tuesday. And you said you support the president 100%. Do you support his efforts to overturn the election? Are you okay with his phone call to Raffensperger?
Look, my sole focus is on tomorrow, January 5th. This election Everything's at stake for this country. I am focused on that exclusively because this affects every single Georgian. And that's been my focus the entire time I've been in the Senate, is working for Georgia, serving them, delivering results, and that's why we need to focus on getting out to vote January 5th, because the future of the country is on the ballot.
All right, Robert.
Senator Loeffler, obviously you're new to politics and new to campaigning, but we have one day left to go. At this point, do you feel as though you've left it on the line for Georgia?
Look, we've left everything on the field. We have worked every single day to serve Georgians. We've delivered unprecedented relief right here in Georgia, bringing $47 billion to our state and then passing additional relief. I continue to fight for the $2,000 checks, but also to deliver results and hold those in Washington accountable for failed policies like Nancy Pelosi, who prevented relief coming to Georgia time and again. I'm proud of my campaign because we've shown Georgians the importance of this race, not just here in Georgia, but to the entire country. We are the firewall to stopping socialism in America, and we are going to run through the finish line.
All right, James, and then Ashley.
Senator, I just wanted to follow up. Do you think that it's appropriate for the president to push the Secretary of State to try to find new votes to overturn the election? Do you have any problem with what he said in that phone call?
Look, my sole focus is on getting Georgians out to vote on January 5th because we are the firewall to stopping socialism. We have to hold the line here in Georgia. Everything's at stake in this election. This is about Georgians. I don't want Georgians to have high taxes, to have crushing regulation, to have Green New Deal policies crushing our farmers, to have open borders. I want our kids to have school choice. I want to fix our health care system. Obamacare has failed Georgia. 130,000 Georgians have lost their health care coverage due to Obamacare. That's what's important in this race.
Senator Loeffler, so we've heard some issues or concerns from Republicans about voters not turning up tomorrow or that there will be fraud in the election. What do you see as your biggest challenge in defeating the Democrats tomorrow?
The biggest challenge we have is to make sure people come out and vote. And I know Georgians are going to do that because I've been going across the state the last 9 weeks nonstop. Georgians are fired up. Look at where we are right now, 3 million early votes. That has put us in a position to win. That's where we need to be. We need Georgians to come out and vote for David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler because we're in Washington working for them. And I've always said to Georgians, I promise to take Georgia to Washington. I'm not going to bring Washington to Georgia. I work for them. And so we are going to get the vote out. I'm very confident in that. We've run races that we will win. Georgians just need to turn out and vote. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday.
All right, let's go for Reagan and Riley, and I think that's all we're going to have time for. So go ahead.
Senator, so President-elect Biden is paying a visit to Georgia today. What's your response ahead of tomorrow's election?
My sole focus is on getting the vote out tomorrow. Georgians need to know that Biden would be here campaigning for the two of the most radically liberal candidates that have ever run for Senate in this country. These candidates would be a rubber stamp for Chuck Schumer to change America, to usher in high taxes, crushing regulations, defunding the police, lockdowns. That's wrong for Georgia, and that's wrong for this country.
All right, go ahead, Riley, wrap us up.
Senator Loeffler, obviously the president's going to be here tonight rallying in Dalton. What is the message you hope to give to voters ahead of the runoff?
Well, I know what the president's going to do. He's going to do exactly what he did last month when he was here. He said, you have to exercise your right to vote. You have to get out and vote for David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. This is too important. He knows that all Georgians will come out to vote because they know what's on the line, but he's here just to make sure that we get that job done.
All right, thank you guys. We gotta go. Guys, we're done. We gotta run, but thank y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye guys.
Thanks for coming out.
Alright, see, we're good. I need to get back up north here, so.
Fair enough. All
I don't know if there's anything too newsworthy from that. Maybe you'll have to run another pass on that. Obviously, it's just basically Loeffler, if so. But I don't want to move this.
Oh, no, I got it, yeah. It's
Got
not
it?
the best. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for helping out.
No, that's the airport.
Oh, gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Great.